Regardless if you're a pro or a novice or a beginner, I'm going to teach you exactly how to negotiate the best car deal in this video. Go ask the question on the internet, who likes car shopping? Everybody's gonna say no. They're gonna call people like me scumbags and worse than politicians and all that stuff. But generally speaking, negotiating a car deal really falls on you for the experience. If you're a pro and you know how to do it, then it's very, very easy to do. I can tell you, I can negotiate a car deal, pick it up, and get out of the car dealership in 30 minutes. Why? Because I have over 23 years of experience of selling them, so you better be known that I can buy them very well. My mother-in-law, who I love very, very much, called us up a couple months ago and says, hey, I want to buy a car, what should I do? And that's where this video idea came from. She actually called my wife. I think she loves her more than me. But she's like, what should I go look at? What should I go do? Should I go to the dealerships and start driving cars? And we're like, hit the brakes. No. We're not doing it. This isn't the 90s, this isn't the 80s. We don't go dealership to dealership and start looking for cars. We keep home field advantage. Where's home field advantage? At home, at office, in your car. Regardless of where it's at, it's never at the dealership. As soon as you walk in the dealership, you automatically lose. First and foremost, to make sure you can negotiate a good car deal is one, research. This is done online. This is done at home. This is not done inside of a dealership. You do not go to a dealership to fact find about a car. Do you think if you walk into a Chevy dealership and you're like, hey, I'm interested in this and I'm interested in the Honda, do you think that the dealership at the Chevy store is going to give you good factual information about the Honda, or are they going to be biased towards their Chevy product and tell you why the Chevy product is good for them? You got to realize that trainers train the salespeople of why their product is the best. The manufacturers, 100% of them, show salespeople why their cars are the best, and they teach people why the other cars are the worst. You're going to get bad information and it's going to be tainted, so we do the research online. There's an analogy. It's spelled spaced. Yes, that's S-P-A-C-E-D. Every single car transaction is going to have this 6-letter analogy that you need to think of when you're buying your car. The S stands for safety. Yes, so a lot of times people are really interested in safety. If I'm buying a car for my teenage daughter, you better believe safety is probably one of the most important things on my mind as a pretty good dad, I'd have to say. Pat on the old back. I'll make sure that my daughter is safe in the car that I buy her. If you're just in an accident, you better believe safety is probably your top concern. The P stands for performance. That's where I come in. This is what I love. I love performance cars because all my kids are growing up. My youngest one is 23. I don't need a minivan. I don't need an SUV. I want sports cars. I want performance. I want fast cars. I want fun stuff, right? When I'm looking at a Corvette, I'm never looking at a Mustang, but some of you have this bad taste of wanting to look at Mustangs. You want to look at Mustangs. If you want to look at Camaros, whatever the case may be, you're going to probably be more interested in horsepower, 0 to 60 times, etc. So the performance is what's going to be important to you. The A stands for affordability. If you're a parent, if you have a huge budget that you have to attain to, you need to make sure that you're doing the research appropriately so that way you're looking at the right price cars so that you can fit it into your affordability budget, so to speak. The C stands for comfort. Comfort's important. I got a bad back. So do millions of others in the world. Comfort's very, very important, especially if you have 3 kids or kids in car seats, whatever the case may be. You want to do the research based off of those wants and needs to ensure that the comfort is done for you and if that's something that's on your radar. E stands for economy. I'm not going to be looking at a sports car and thinking I want good gas mileage. Now, it's pretty cool that Corvettes do get 30 miles per gallon on the miles per gallon for the highway, but I like to play a little game of how low can I go? Can I get single digits? Because that means my fun factor is way up. I'm not looking for economy when I'm looking for a Corvette. But hey, teenage kid, young adult, college, whatever the case may be, parents on a budget, strict budget, you're trying to save for your retirement. You don't want to spend all your money at the gas station, so you're going to worry about economy. Maybe you want a smaller car just to commute back and forth to work. Those are things that you need to think about. And the D is for dependability, and you can't go off of what your parents have told you, your grandparents have told you. Hondas and Toyotas break, folks. I know Hondas and Toyotas have this huge dependability factor that they'll never break, but they all have service departments for a reason. And it's not just for oil changes and tire rotations. They break down. You can't go off of third-party factors. For the last several years, Kia's been the #1 dependability and affordability car on the road. Yeah, go Google their engines. I wouldn't buy a Kia or a Hyundai if my life depended on it. I'd rather walk back and forth to work. So that's the type of research you need to do, is the SPACED analogy. Keep that in mind because you need that to determine all of your wants and needs. What's a want? What's a need? Do you really need a heated steering wheel sunroof, or do you want that? Do you need third row, or do you want third row? Got 5 kids? I would say that a third row is probably pretty important, right? So So that's the type of things that you need to determine. And obviously the biggest thing that you need to worry about is your budget. How are you paying for this car? Are you paying for cash? Are you doing payments? Do you have a trade-in? Do you have a little bit of both? You need to understand at home, online, with your research. Yes, we're still in the number one on research. The research is the most important step to the foundation of a good negotiating car deal. When you do the research correctly, you're gonna make sure that you have an easy transaction. This research may take an hour, it may take 10 months. I don't know, that's dependent on your wants and needs, but you gotta figure that stuff out before you head into step two. Because that is picking the car. You gotta pick your car now. Do you wanna look at 1 or 2 or 3 cars, or you've narrowed it down to just one car? Hey, if you're a Honda or Toyota loyalist and you're only gonna go to Toyota Honda and your research is based off of their models, hey, perfect. Obviously, I got Chevy Dude right here. I'm a big Chevy enthusiast. I love Chevy. Am I only gonna look at Chevys? Do I maybe go over to GMC or Buick? You know, back in the day, I bought a Pontiac. I love Pontiac. I bought a Grand Prix GXP. It was a 400 horsepower front wheel drive car that was an absolute blast to own, and that I gave my youngest daughter when she turned 16. It was fun. Never did I think I'd own a Pontiac because I'm a huge Chevy enthusiast, but they were fun cars and that's what I looked at. So that's what you gotta do, is pick your car depending on your research phase of this. Which heads us into number 3, which is see the car in person. You've done all this research. You feel that it's working very well for you. Now, you gotta go see this car and you wanna make sure you do it in a low pressure, low haggle, low hassle way. Best thing to do is go to car shows. Car shows are typically in the spring and summer. So if you're that summer and spring buyer, hey, go to car shows and look at cars. There's no pressure there, right? You get to sit in these cars, you get to see them, you get to see the options, you get to see how some things work. You can ask the representatives of the manufacturers questions, all of that stuff. And then you can obviously go to the dealership after they close. There's no pressure there. When they're closed, you can start looking at cars. You can start looking at truck options, the wheel options, whatever the case may be. And certainly you can sit there and go through the process of going to talk to a salesperson. Many people, which is getting lower and lower, do need to test drive a car in order to make a good, well-informed decision. So that's why we have to see the car in person. And you go to the car dealership with that in mind. We do not go to the car dealership for any other reason other to obtain information that is not biased and that we have a plan of attack to go in. Hey, listen, I have determined that safety is important to me, that I want economy, I want dependability, and what do I have in my wants and needs? I got 3 kids. I need to make sure a car seat fits in here. I need to make sure a stroller fits in here. I need good trunk space because I have 3 kids. That's what we write down, and we understand what we're determining what our plan of attack is when we go look at this car. I want to test drive it. I want to check the engine. I want to know about service intervals. I want to make sure the trunk's good. Whatever the case may be of your wants and needs, that's what you do, is you go in and look at the car to determine if this research that you've done online is your wants and needs are accurate. Now comes the fun part. Number 4, we can negotiate our car deal. I've talked about negotiating car deals over and over on this channel and on my main Chevy Dude channel of what to look for, what the scams to look for, how to negotiate for higher trade values. But the number 1 rule of all of this on negotiating is you have to negotiate your car deal in up to 3 separate transactions. You negotiate the vehicle that you're purchasing. That's transaction number 1. You look at the vehicle that you're purchasing, you work with the dealership remotely. We do not negotiate in the dealership. We negotiate through phone, we negotiate through text or email. We do not negotiate in person. It's a big no-no. You're giving them the home field advantage. You want to negotiate outside of the dealership so you can not have any pressure and you know that you're making a well-informed decision. Car dealers hate that I say that. You go look at our Google reviews. We've got a bunch of 1-star Google reviews. None of them are from our customers. They're all from haters. They're all from car dealerships who do not like me teaching you the right way to buy a car so that way you come out ahead and they don't. But what they don't know is they actually do come out ahead, but that's a totally different video. So 1, we negotiate the vehicle that you're purchasing. Once you have that vehicle negotiated to the price that you like, the price, remember step 1 was research. We've already figured out our budget. We've already figured out how we pay for it. We already figured out what payment we can afford. We don't let the dealership figure that stuff. You negotiate the price of your car based off of what you need to get to do your budget, if it's cash, payment, whatever the case may be. Once you feel that you've got negotiated to where you need to be on the car, you're winning the car deal, that's when you go into the financing portion, which is step 2 of the negotiation of the car deal. The second part of the transaction is to get a pre-approval from your local bank or credit union. Those are usually the best resources. The big name banks, Chase, Wells Fargo, PNC, all those banks, you're just a number of them and they don't care. So you want to make sure that you work with your local bank or credit union to get a pre-approval, and then you negotiate with the dealership on the financing. Hey, they're gonna ask you up front, how do you plan on paying for this? You tell them you have not determined how you're paying for it yet. I'm only interested in negotiating the price of the car, and then once that part's done, you negotiate the financing like we're talking about now, and that's when you lay it on them. Hey, I was thinking about financing this, and I did get pre-approved, and as long as I looked at a 2018 or newer car, the bank said I would have 5.99. Can you guys do any better than that? You can do it that way, or you can be like, hey, listen, I did get pre-approved already through XYZ Credit Union, and they'd be like, oh great, we work with them, we can just do all the paperwork here, excellent. Hey, well, I was wondering if you can maybe shop around and see if you can give me a lower rate. Well, what kind of rate you got? Well, I'll let you see if you can beat their rate. I don't want to disclose that information, just like you're probably not gonna disclose the cost of your car to me. I'm not gonna disclose the cost of my financing, so if you can find me a better rate, I'll do my financing through you, but for right now, I'd rather keep what I have to myself. And then third part of that negotiating transaction is your trade-in if you have one. If you don't have a trade-in, excellent, you're done here. You've negotiated your purchase price, you negotiated your financing. But if you do have a trade-in, there's a step process to negotiating trade-in. Before you go to the car dealership, you have now shopped around for what your trade's worth. We got on Carvana, we got on CarMax, we went to maybe 1 or 2 dealerships in person and say, hey, what's my car worth? If you got a Chevy you're trading in, don't go to a Honda dealership. Go to a Chevy dealership and have them evaluate your car. Go to another Chevy dealership and have them evaluate your car. If there's a big independent dealership, like what I am, Mike's Car Store here in Georgetown, Indiana, we are an independent dealership. Go to a big independent dealership and say, hey, listen, I'm thinking about selling my car. Would you be interested in buying it? And what would you give me for it? Now you have 3 or 4 opinions on your car, and you airdrop the trade on them, and that's when they can say, hey, your car's worth XYZ. And be like, well, this dealership over here, they're giving me $2 grand more. They're giving me $500 more, whatever. They're gonna come back with a couple things, but you can sit there and know up front that you're getting a fair and value of your trade without having to go back and forth with the dealership. Then we got the best thing, delivery of your car. That's the absolute best thing. Now remember, we negotiated at home. We didn't negotiate at the dealership. We negotiated at home on our own terms and in our own transitional space that we like to be in, if it's home, car, office, whatever the case may be. Now, what you need to do is let them know, hey, listen, we got a deal. I'll come pick it up at Friday. Do I need to give you a deposit to hold it? Yes, no, maybe so, perfect. And now you have to determine on what you want to do and what you want to tell them to do. Listen, hey, I've only got 30 minutes on Friday, so you guys got to have everything ready. Every transaction needs a driver's license, needs an insurance card, needs a social security number. You need to have all that stuff updated. So if you moved 6 months ago and your address on your driver's license is the old address, get it updated. They need it. So ensure that you can give them all the information that they need to do the transactional paperwork, and let them know that, hey, listen, I'll be there Friday at 3 o'clock. I've only got 45 minutes, so will you please have the paperwork ready prior to? That morning of your delivery, you text the salesman, contact the salesman and say, hey, listen, we're still good for 3 o'clock, but I do need you to have all the paperwork ready for me as I've only got 45 minutes. Will you have that done? You expect a yes or a no answer out of them, and at that point, you go in for delivery and you get in and out in 30 minutes. If you deviate any from this process, it's only gonna prolong your process. So if you use these 5 steps to make sure that you negotiate your car deal, you'll get in and out just like that.